Hello, everybody. Welcome on back to Fantasy Football Futures. Today is Monday, September 27th, right after Sunday, Week 3 NFL football season. I'm Tyler, here with Tim.
What's up?
And today we're going to go ahead and jump into some of the boom players from the weekend, some of the bust players from the weekend. Why did you just do that?
Do what?
You pulled your shirt out and just really stuck your chest out.
Because this is staying in this.
Yeah, it really threw me off there. That was weird.
And also I do it because I have terrible posture.
Yeah, it's something you're trying to. I don't know. I don't know what that just really threw me off. Anyway, the booms, the best players, some of the big, and then as well go over some of the waiver pickups for this week. I feel like there's not too much of that this week as much kind of there was last week, but I mean you had some big news starting with McCaffrey getting hurt on Thursday night with a hamstring injury, and he's not on the IR, so that means they're hoping he's to be back within 3 weeks.
Those hamstring injuries, though, you don't really know what's going to happen. So you might maybe go a week and then see how he goes, and then he gets put on the IR, which would kind of suck because then it'd be another 3 weeks.
Well, that's what I'm kind of curious to see. The hamstrings they don't go away, so I'm kind of interested to see what their plan is there with him being out. They just traded for C.J. Anderson as well. Mm-hmm. So you got Hubbard and C.J. Anderson back there. So those two names to watch out for. Hamstring for him. They're no IR, so less than 3 weeks. But I don't know. I feel like what did he have last year? Was it his ankle last year that he was dealing with?
I believe it was something with the lower leg.
I think it was his ankle. So, I mean, it's just something to keep an eye out for. I don't know. It's very interesting to see what's going to happen with him. Felt like there was the hamstring bug plagued everybody this week. With the Giants, you had Sterling Shepard and Slayton go out too during the game, both with hamstring injuries on Sunday. So that's something to keep an eye out for. And then A.J. Brown, who's probably been one of the most disappointing second-round picks over the last 3 weeks. I don't think he's gotten over 10 points yet. But he
been right above it.
Yeah.
It's very disappointing.
He finished the game with 0.3 fantasy points, had I think a 3-yard run, and then went out with a hamstring injury as well. So he's one. Did he get put on the?
He is not.
He's week to week right now.
Week to week, yep.
So that can mean big things ahead for Julio Jones, who's honestly looked like he hasn't really lost anything since leaving Atlanta, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out with Brown and his hamstring and how long that's going to keep him out. So, let's see. So we got that. We have the trade with C.J. Anderson. James White.
Was it C.J. Anderson? I thought it was for a defensive back from the Jaguars.
No.
C.J. Henderson.
No. C.J. Anderson, I'm pretty sure. Why would... No, it's C.J. Anderson because they traded Dan Arnold for C.J.
Yeah, for cornerback C.J. Henderson.
Was it C.J. Henderson?
Yeah.
Why did I...
Jaguars give up C.J. Henderson. He was the 9th pick overall in the 2020 draft.
All right, there we go. That was...
I had to think of, C.J. Anderson...
That's what? I don't know why I was thinking that. They did work out Duke Johnson.
Yeah, they did do that. So they traded Dan Arnold and a 3rd-round pick to the Jaguars for former first-round picks C.J. Henderson and a 5th-rounder.
What a big old brain fart by me right there. Holy cow, I just was reading it. So you got A.J. Brown with a strained hamstring, considered week to week. They haven't really done. Chuba Hubbard's supposed to be the main guy right now in Carolina with CMC being out. And then in New England, you got James White, who went out with a hip injury on Sunday, kind of like what Fitzpatrick has done. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens to them. I don't know. James White, I feel like the Patriots lose a lot there with him because that takes all their passing threat. I know they have Bolden, and then you got Ramondre, but it's just going to be interesting to see what happens with them.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later after James White came out. Damon Harris didn't.
No, it was just.
Anything. But at that point, it was. We'll get into it later. But at that point, they had to throw the ball a lot more.
Were there any other big injuries? I know.
There was some last minute, like Cook was out.
Cook
Henderson
didn't play.
was inactive. Jacobs was inactive, but I haven't heard anything else like what the next week's going to look like.
Now, Tua was on the IR. He got placed on the IR. That was after Thursday, so he's out for 3 weeks. That means Jacoby Brissett's going to be the starter. They're in Miami for the next 2 weeks, and interesting to see what he's going to look like. Sunday, I don't know. I feel like you don't really lose a whole lot between Tua and Jacoby. Jacoby just I don't know. They're like the borderline same player. Jacoby just might make dumber decisions.
Yeah. He might not be able to might not have the arm strength as Tua does, but I don't know. It's almost like it's not a downgrade, but it's not an upgrade either.
It's like a watch each other out. Doesn't really matter. So those are all the big news that we've had throughout the week. The injury bug really hit hard this week 3. Especially those hamstrings that we talked about.
Yeah, a lot of hamstrings. For some reason, I've been seeing a lot of bruised ribs.
Oh, that was not Gronk. Yeah, Gronk got beat up. Who else?
There was a couple people where they might have came back in, but then it was just like one guy had bruised lungs for the 49ers last night. He had to go to the hospital. Just a lot of bruised.
That was Josh Norman.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, it's that. And then there was one thing I think we need to kind of touch on and keep an eye out for. Tyler Lockett did go out with an apparent knee injury, but he did come back in. I think I read it as an MCL sprain right now. So that's something to keep an eye out week to week, and especially you can sell on him or hold him. It just really depends. He did come back, so I would imagine you won't see him on the practice list a lot this week, but he'll probably play. So that's going to really round out from what I've read, all the injuries and what I remember from all the injuries and what I wrote down. So we'll go ahead and move on then to some of the Sunday's big performers. And we came up with a list of 5 players. And some of these guys, they're not all going to be big name. Like we know Josh Allen had a really good week. He finally came out and did what Josh Allen was doing last year. So, like, clearly he's one. And then you have your usual suspect, like Derrick Henry was at the top. And then, so it's really just kind of guys who were under the radar fantasy guys. And really, like, the first guy we're going to talk about here, he's probably been one of the most consistent players this year. And that is, it's kind of a shock. I know you talked about him at the beginning of the year, and we both have we've talked about how good his potential ceiling could be, but injuries have plagued him over the years. And that's Mike Williams with the Los Angeles Chargers this week. He put up 33.2 points in fantasy PPR. He had 7 catches on 9 targets, 122 yards, 2 touchdowns, and that gives him 4 touchdowns now through 3 games. So, to me, I think if you're a Keenan Allen fantasy owner, I don't think you need to worry because Keenan Allen's still going to get his targets with Justin Herbert. The Chargers we saw this week, how good they can be offensively. I know they've been struggling. But the only thing that I worry about Keenan Allen fantasy owners is how much this guy's going to get the ball in the red zone because he's 6'4", 6'5", huge frame, an athlete, and just can go get the ball at any point. So, to me, just the biggest thing that I saw is the 7 out of 9, the 2 touchdowns, which really boosted him up, and having 4 through 3 games. And to me, I think he's been one of the more consistent players at wide receiver this year.
Yeah, I think he's the number 2 wide receiver in PPR and ending week 3. If he wasn't going to be injured, this is kind of what I expect out of Mike Williams. He's a big guy down there in the red zone. But like you said, I'm not worried about Keenan Allen because that offense for the Chargers, it's a great offense.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to throw the ball a lot. Mike Williams is going to get his, but then Keenan Allen's going to be able to get his targets, his touches, and so is Eckler, and even some Jared Cook. So I'm not worried about it. And if you are a Keenan Allen and you're like, Mike Williams can't keep doing this, you can be right because you can just be saying to yourself, when's he going to be injured?
That's the thing that it's going to come down to, yeah.
These 3 weeks have been awesome for Mike Williams, but is it's going to be a couple weeks, then he's just going to be hurt, and then nothing's going to happen, or is he going to keep doing this for the rest of the year?
And that to me is the injury thing is what is the biggest question mark is he going to sustain this? When's it going to go? Do I try to sell high now if I have him? And just kind of say, if you're like, especially if you're 1-2, like you're 1-2, 0-3, sell him, try to get something that you need. Like I would sell high on this guy right now if I needed someone, just because of the fact that he can easily get injured tomorrow and it go back into his what we've seen over the last 3 years. But like you said, his ceiling is 33 points or more a game because of how big he is and how they can utilize him in the red zone. So
how many red zone targets
yeah,
he gets, it's insane.
So like to me, this guy put on a show. Chiefs defense, the Chiefs in general just don't look good.
No.
Patrick Mahomes is making stupid throws, bad throws. And it's just they're not looking very consistent. Their defense isn't good. They're giving up a lot of rushing yards. They're not stopping the run. I think they're ranked 32 or 31 in the NFL against the run.
They were 32. I don't know about after this game because Eckler, the Chargers don't run the ball with Eckler. They throw him the ball, short passes, dump offs in. So they don't run the ball a lot, but that defense just does not look good for them. And then the offense, Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill are not on the same page right now.
No, and even Kelsey's his points
had a lot of yards, but he just wasn't.
They're coming after the catch, which is what he's doing. So I don't know. To me, the Chiefs are just looking very different this year. Not kind of like what we've seen. I think they'll rebound, they'll adjust and do whatever. But the Chargers look good. They could very easily be 3-0. A lot of people think they should have beat the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So to me, I just think Mike Williams emerging has been nothing but great for Herbert and the Chargers team. Mm-hmm. And I think if he continues to do that, it's going to be pretty hard to not start him every week, no matter if he can get hurt or what. Yep. So Mike Williams is the first one. Number 2 here is running back. The number 1 running back this week with 28.2 points in PPR. He had 40 yards rushing. I think he had 13 carries with 14 catches out of 19 targets, 102 yards, but no rushing touchdown. And that's Najee Harris, which to me, this game, it kind of shows what Najee can do catching the ball out of the backfield. But
if he had offensive line, maybe he could score a touchdown or two.
Yeah.
He's really the only bright spot of that offense. If you had Claypool this week, you actually had a pretty good week from him.
Yeah.
He had 9 catches, but other than that...
Oh, that's another one we missed. Juju went out, too, this week.
Yeah, Juju
so.
did, yeah. Big Ben just does not look like a good quarterback.
No,
he looks terrible, and he doesn't know what to do. So when you don't know what to do, you just throw it to your running back.
Well, that's what they're...
19 targets, that's insane.
That's what... I think it was the team record with 14 receptions. With with Deontay Johnson being out, I kind of had a feeling that he would get some, you'll see his targets increase, and you saw it go to Juju and Claypool early, but once Juju got hurt, I think that's really when you saw Big Ben just dumping it off. They ran 5 or 6 plays in a row where Najee just ran a 3-yard out and Big Ben just threw him the football. So, to me, it's just the Steelers haven't looked good. This was his first game, I think, getting to this 40-yard rushing mark.
He did it in week 1, but it was 16 on 45. But he's under 3 yards per carry.
Yeah.
So I think that has to do more with the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
He just whenever he gets to the line, he's just getting stopped.
Yeah.
Because he has multiple.
There's nowhere to go for him. So I'm hoping to see his rookie campaign continue to grow. I hope the Steelers kind of figure it out, because if they do, having a guy like Najee helps, because you can throw the ball, you can run a little bit. But I think the key each week is, depending how long Deontay Johnson's out, Najee is a great RB1 fill every week because of how much they might have to throw the football to stay in the game. So,
and because he's on the field week 1, 100% snap count, 95% week 2, 95% week 3.
Yeah,
always on the field, and when he's always on the field, and if the Steelers are down a lot, they're going to be throwing him the ball. If they're up a lot, they're going to be running with him. So
and that's what. Yeah. So he's one. I think. You can continue to see these dump offs happening where he can get points off this and receiving. He's a great receiver out of the backfield. So I don't know. To me, it was just I expected him to kind of have a solid week. He was part of my sleepers to start this week just because of Deontay being out. But he exceeded it with how many catches he got. He solely got you, if it's PPR, 14 points of just catching the football alone. And then you add how many yards he had. So, to me, I don't know, Najee Harris, it was a big week for him and really helped with Juju going out as well with Deontay not being in there.
That's when you really start to see that target share go up.
But, yeah, like you said, Claypool had a solid game. It's just, he's another...
If you watch the game, you just saw Big Ben just struggle and just had to dump it off every time.
You know what Claypool reminds me of? Claypool is always getting hurt kind of too. Mm-hmm. He kind of reminds me of early Mike Williams. Yeah. Because they have the big bodies, the athletic frames. They're big enough to go get the football, go do whatever.
They need to stay on the field.
Yeah.
I like that comparison because that's really what it is. I think if Claypool can stay on the field during the red zone, that's where he shines. Yeah. He's getting no touchdowns.
Oh, yeah.
And if Deontay Johnson keeps staying out, then I think Claypool and Najee Harris are the two that benefit.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So he was our second boom of the week. The next boom of the week we'll go to is another running back with the Cleveland Browns. He put up 27.5 points. He had 10 carries, 81 yards. He had 1 rushing touchdown, and then he added 6 catches out of 7 targets for 74 yards, which is Kareem Hunt. This, I feel like, is something his floor is much lower because of Nick Chubb, but his ceiling is also so high because on any, he would be a starting running back at a lot of teams in the NFL. So to me, it's just, I don't know. It's something he can put up these numbers every week, but it's not likely that he will. But it's something that wouldn't surprise me. So
Nick Chubb, I think, only had 8 or 9 points this week. It's something I'm not too worried about because we've seen this happen last year. You just have these random games where Kareem Hunt just kind of just has a better game than Nick Chubb. The Bears were kind of stopping Nick Chubb up front, so then they started throwing the ball a little bit. And then Kareem Hunt just got in a little bit more, and he did more with it. And I'm not worried about it because then next week, Nick Chubb might go for 15 carries for 150 yards.
Well, that's why I think Nick Chubb still had 74 or 80. He was 70 to 80-something rushing yards. So it wasn't a bad game for him by all.
It wasn't terrible.
He didn't find the end zone.
It's just one of those things where Kareem Hunt is in on where he scored a touchdown, and that one really helps push him above.
Especially PPR receiving threat. Yep. It's just where he reaps. Like, Nick Chubb can catch football. We've seen it. He can do it. But Kareem Hunt, they just trust more doing it, and he is utilized more in those passing situations. So that's where I think he gets the more benefit. And if you have Kareem Hunt playing him in a flex each week just because he can do this every week, I feel like he's always due for a touchdown. With the Browns, they like to rotate Chubb and Hunt throughout the game just to keep them both fresh, which I would too as well because they're so good. It's just, I don't know. It's just he's a solid player. He can put up these points weekly. It's just, I don't know. The receiving aspect of Hunt is just so much higher, and that's why it's like a consistent, like, high ceiling for him each week.
And then also looking forward to week 4, they're playing the Minnesota Vikings, who don't have a very good defense.
No.
So starting Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I expect them to both have pretty good games.
Yeah, Chris Carson had a pretty solid game. He got dinged up a little bit against the Vikings as well, but yeah, I would both of them. Yeah, they're on a run-first team with Landry being out, and Odell didn't look terrible, but you need that running threat, and the Browns have a very good offensive line, so they're going to run the football. So starting him and Chubb is something you can't go wrong with either one, especially if it's like a RB2 or flex spot for Hunt. You got to play him each week, I feel like. So he was our number 3 guy, putting up 27.5 points this week. And then we'll go ahead and switch it up a little bit. Let's go to tight end here. It's not Travis Kelce. It's not TJ Hawkinson. It's actually going to be Tyler Conklin from the Minnesota Vikings. Put up 20 points this week. He had 7 catches on 8 targets, 70 yards, and 1 touchdown. And I feel like this is something we saw is kind of what they predicted with Irv Smith, what they wanted Irv Smith to do. And I think you're kind of seeing it worked in with Tyler Conklin, especially with Dalvin Cook being out this week.
Yep. It was a little bit surprising because Osborne's been taking a lot of those touchdowns and those targets away. But then this week, Conklin had 8 targets with 7 catches, got that touchdown like you said. So it looks like Conklin's going to be that top tight end, having over 70% of the snap share.
Yeah.
So when they traded for, who was that?
Henson,
yeah. They maybe thought he would be the number 1 tight end, but Conklin's really taken over that number 1 tight end role for them, and it's a good fit because Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, they're throwing the ball a lot.
Oh yeah,
and they're running the ball, but they're also throwing the ball a lot. So it's been a really good offense.
I think it's more balanced this year than last year, where it was like run the ball. It was probably like 70-30 run pass for last year with the Vikings.
And they're really spurting it out this year, and if you've had any Vikings offensive players, you're looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, especially like Conklin had a very good week. Madison had a very good week coming in backing up Cook this week, as well as with Thielen scored 1 touchdown. He has 4 touchdowns through 3 games now. Yeah. Thielen does, and then Jefferson had kind of got back to what he was doing in the past. Mm-hmm. So it was nice to see that. But yeah, like you said, Vikings. If you have any of these players right now, you're pretty happy with it. And Conklin, I think. He's not going to put like this as I think a very high ceiling.
Yeah, I think this is his ceiling for him.
But I can see a touchdown and like 5 or 6 catches, 4 to 5 catches a game, which is easily 11, 12 points, which is really all you ask for your tight ends to hit that double-digit number. So he's definitely someone to keep an eye out for with the fact with how good the Vikings offense has looked throwing the football, and especially Kirk Cousins. And I like to see what he's going to look like if Dalvin Cook's out again next week. So
yeah, I would look for him. He's only 8% rostered on Sleepers, so if you're looking for a tight end matchup and really need one, if yours got hurt late and you can't make that trade or anything, I think he'd be a good tight end to pick up and hopefully get you some points.
Yes, so he was a very big performer this week, and that tight end position I feel like is always hit or miss. And you had him, and then Gesicki had a really nice game too. So it was like the tight ends kind of who were struggling kind of came out of their show, and I think Gesicki benefited from Brissett being in the game and playing the Vegas Raiders, who aren't the best at guarding against tight ends. So that was our 4th one with Tyler Conklin. The last guy that we have here, another running back. He was one of my must starts this week solely because of how bad Arizona's run defense is. And that was James Robinson. He put up 25.4 points in fantasy. He had 88 yards rushing, 1 touchdown, and he had 6 catches on 6 targets for 46 yards. And to me, I feel like you kind of saw a little bit of James Robinson from last year on Sunday.
Yeah, because I don't know if I had him in my sit-em past week or if it was 2 weeks ago, but like I was off the James Robinson train. It looks like they weren't using him. Nothing where they had last year. Even with Etienne losing him for the season, they didn't go all this James Robinson. So seeing this week, I was actually very surprised, but good for James Robinson. I think he's a really good running back, and I think what he did yesterday is what he should almost be not doing 25 points a game.
Yeah.
But around the 15-20 mark is what he should be putting up each week because I think he's that talented. I just think the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence is struggling right now, and they need to give the ball to James Robinson, get him some confidence, maybe then work in some of run like
play action.
I can't think of the word. Sorry, play action, and be able to maybe get the ball to Marvin Jones or to Chenault or to DJ Chark.
DJ Chark, yeah, and that's what Urban Meyer came out and said, that they needed to run the ball more because to get Lawrence more relaxed and everything, and they looked good early in the game. On Sunday, they were running the ball great. They were moving the ball up and down the field. And then you got into these throwing situations. We saw Lawrence throw pick 6 late in the game, which really changed the momentum of that football game. But to me, I think if you want the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence to be successful this year at all, to win like 2-3 games, it's going to come on games where James Robinson has huge performances, especially with Etienne not being in there. And what I was glad to see, which was him having 6 catches and 6 targets this week. And that's huge, especially for a guy who you would think is only a run-first kind of guy.
Playing PPR, having those 6 catches, and then having 6 yards per carry, getting that touchdown, like, that's what he should be doing every game, I believe.
And that's what I think you're going to want to play him probably almost every week, but if you have an option to play a matchup and sit him, he still might be a little bit of a matchup play each week just solely because of the Jaguars aren't a great team. So that's something to keep an eye out for. But that was our 5th one, and that was for our booms for this week. Do you have an honorable mention you want to throw out?
I was just going to mention, I know we said Josh Allen, we didn't throw him in here, but actually the Bills put up a lot of points, and Diggs didn't actually do a whole lot. He put up okay numbers.
He had like 6 catches, 80 yards.
Sanders and Cole Beasley were the ones that actually benefited big from Josh.
And I think one of the biggest, like me being super Bills fan that I am, one of the biggest additions that might not have been talked about a whole lot was Emmanuel Sanders going there. Mm-hmm. I think that Diggs is going to draw so much attention. Gabriel Davis he was fine. He's good to have. But he's not as good as, and he won't be able to fill in those slots like Emmanuel Sanders can. And Cole Beasley plays a very well slot position, so he's always one. We saw it last year. I think he was a 1,000-yard receiver last year, or just right under it. I don't remember. I think it was right. I think he broke over the 1,000-yard mark in the last game.
I believe the thing about Cole Beasley is very interesting. He was only on the field 66% of the time.
Yeah.
But
what was Sanders? I know Sanders week 1 was like 94% of the time, second behind Diggs.
93%, and then on week 3 he was 80%.
So he's still on the field a lot. So it's looking like he's their number 2 option behind Diggs. Yep. And he's not rostered. What's he rostered in? In Sleeper, I know it's probably lower. He's not rostered in a lot of leagues right now.
We'll talk about him more in the waiver wire because he's actually going to be one of my waiver wire pickups because he is under that 50%.
That's what, he's
roster.
He's a flex. He's not like a wide receiver 1 or 2, but he's definitely a flex option, especially in our deep, like our league. We have those 2 flex. Throw him in that second flex spot. See what he can do. Mm-hmm. Play those matchup games with him. I think you see the Bills continue to route people like they did, so he's one that will be very good to have. And like if you can grab him now, I'd grab him and sit on him for a little bit. So
because he's not going to be there for long, that number's going to keep going up rostered.
So those were our booms for this week. Now let's go to some of the guys who had some very, very, very disappointing weeks. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this week there was kind of a long list of them, and we just kind of came up to the 5 that were not good. And like we're looking at like where they're drafted and everything, and then kind of team situation. So like our first guy here for the big bust would be Damian Harris, and that's to me he had 3.1 points, 6 carries, 14 yards, 2 catches for -3 yards.
Yeah. So out of the whole list, Damian Harris scares me the most. Just because when we go down, you'll just see maybe the offense just wasn't there for them this week, or they might have had some injury. But Damian Harris, James White got hurt, and then Damian Harris just didn't get the ball. I know the Patriots were down a lot, had to throw the ball, but in a PPR league, you want your running back to catch the ball some, and he only had 2 targets. And so that can be a little scary, and only seeing him have 6 attempts was only on the field 31% of the time.
That's what worries me a lot.
Doesn't look as good after that first week when he had 100 yards. Yeah. It's gone down each week, so it's pretty scary right now.
That's what it's going to worry me what they're going to do with Ramondre Stevenson and then Bowden, who played for him last week. What's Harris's role? Is it going to change? Are they going to rely on the run more? To me, the Patriots, I think, are always more successful when they can run the football. It's just, like you said, it's a question mark each week because we don't know what they're going to use him for. Mm-hmm. And I think he's a great option to have if you have him on your team. But it just comes down to, you look at these numbers, 6 carries, 14 yards. And James White went out, I think, in the second or first quarter. It was early.
It wasn't late.
And that's what worries me. Only getting 6 carries and being on the field 31% of the time, it's hard to kind of wrap your finger around. And I wouldn't hit the panic button yet, but if he has especially against the run. Yeah. Saints defense is very good. It's just like, what are you kind of wait and see and hope if he has a really good week next week, I'd almost try to sell and try to get something out of him, whether it's be another flex option. If you can sell a running back, I would look at doing that just because Patriots are a weird offense. You just never know what they're going to do.
Matt
So
Jones looked like a rookie quarterback.
yeah, they didn't look great at all this past week. So I'm interested to see how they're going to bounce back. But yeah, for him only getting 3.1 points, he's a very big bust candidate this week. Especially you're looking at him as an RB2 in most leagues anyway. Mm-hmm. So he's our first bust. Our second bust of the week. Well, most of these are receiving options now. Yep. And that's solely because in PPR, if you have a bad week receiving, it's
a couple of these are actually all of them are big name guys.
Oh yeah,
expect to be
like the first guy is probably. I know he could be drafted in the first or second round in a lot of leagues. That's Tyreek Hill with the Chiefs. He put up 5.9 yards, but he did have 5 catches on 7 targets, but they weren't for anything. He only had 56 yards receiving this week.
What kind of was weird to me was his snap count in week 1 was 88, and then week 2 was 98, but then this week was only 73. And that's what makes me think. I wonder if there could have been like an injury or something. Something
that he's messing with or he's tweaked. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm curious to kind of see what it is because he's the kind of guy you need on the field at all times. So
first week 15 targets, and in the last 2 weeks he's had very disappointing four targets last week and only like 7 targets. That's good for a lot of wide receivers, but for Tyreek Hill you're expecting more.
And out of that offense. It could just be teams now saying, you know what. F it. Yeah. I'm taking away Kelsey. I'm going to try to take away Hill. Beat us with Pringle. Beat us with your backup tight end. Beat us with whoever. But these 2 guys are not going to beat us.
And then on that last drive that the Chiefs were trying to make against the Chargers, Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, they weren't getting the ball because they were being guarded so
probably double and stuff. So yeah,
you had someone try to catch the ball and they couldn't.
Yeah.
And so
Robinson,
it's showing that. If you can stop Tyreek Hill, and Kelsey had a game, but he didn't score a touchdown. So if you can stop one of them, you have a really good chance to beat them.
If you can hold one of them to a small game, I think your chance of being Chiefs turn great. Yeah. I don't know. We hit a little bit. Chiefs just look bad. They look weird. The offense doesn't look the same. Mahomes is making throws that he shouldn't be making, but he is. And I know it's because he's Mahomes and he can do stuff like that, but the one pass I keep going back to, he's running down to the right. He doesn't look at the guy, throws across his body. Did hit the guy in the hands, but he had no idea the ball was coming to him because Mahomes is looking this way. So to me, it's just, I don't know. It's an interesting offense. I'm curious to see what they did. Edwards-Helaire had a good week. It looks like they're trying to get him more involved in the games as well.
Run a little bit more.
But if I'm the Chiefs, do what you do and do what you do well, and that is pass football. You got the best quarterback on your team, and you have Tyreek Hill, fastest man I've ever seen, and then one of the best tight ends ever to play the game. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what he's going to look like the next couple weeks. I'm sure he'll bounce back. He always does. Who they play next week?
The Chiefs will bounce back from that. What they've been doing. I don't know who they play. Let me.
Because I can almost feel like he'll have a very large game that he's due for one, especially against. Who, I bet is it the Broncos they're playing next week?
Nope, they play the Eagles.
The Eagles, so
that's Philadelphia.
That's a game where he can easily bounce back in.
What do you think their favorite bet?
7.5.
6.5.
That was close. So yeah, just keep an eye out for Hill. It was just a very disappointing week for him, especially if you draft him in the first, second round. It's just you need these guys to get at least 10. So yeah, he's super bummer this week. Our next bust of the week will go to DeAndre Hopkins with the Cardinals at 5.1 points this week. 3 catches on 6 targets, 21 yards against a very bad Jacksonville football team. Now, I know this is a bust, but some part of it I think relates to why he was out at the beginning of the year. Or not the year. Like he was questionable at the beginning of the week towards game time. So
he was on the field 91% of the times, but you can also see that as he was just a decoy.
Yep.
And they just didn't want to give him the ball a whole lot.
Yeah.
They have so many other weapons.
Yeah.
Kirk had a great game. A.J. Green, you have Chase Edmonds back there.
A.J. Green had a huge game.
James Conner scored 2 touchdowns. if you're hurt with DeAndre Hopkins, but he can be out there and play, like, use him as a decoy.
Yeah.
So I'm not like, I have DeAndre Hopkins. It sucks seeing him only get 5 points. But at the same time, if I'm just a Cardinals fan, I'm not worried about that because I think it was more of a decoy.
And if I have DeAndre, I'm not worried about it because, like you said, if he's hurt, him going out there still causes people to be like, all right, we got to guard this guy. And like you said, AJ Green had a very nice week. I think he had over 100 yards receiving this week. Kirk had a very good week. Rondale Moore, who was a waiver wire pickup we talked about last week, did not have a good week, but we kind of talked about Rondale Moore is going to be like that Kirk. I feel like they're going to have big weeks, off weeks, big week, off week. It's just picking that right week that he's your guy. So DeAndre Hopkins, down week due to the questionable, did he have an illness? Bruised ribs. So that's another thing. So it's just something to keep an eye out for. Check the reports throughout the week just to see, but I expect him to be back fully next week. So he's our third one, and then we'll go ahead and move to our fourth one, which is he's been tearing it up over the first 2 weeks at the tight end position. The best receiving option that they have, they were in a game, they lost on a 66-yard field goal, which is insane. But that's T.J. Hawkinson. He put up 3 points this week. He had 2 catches on 10 yards, and that's all he had, with 2 targets as well.
Honestly, I don't have much to say about this because I'm not worried at all.
No.
It's just one of those things where the Ravens were able to take him out of the game, and just the Lions couldn't do much with their offense. So I'm not worried about it. I expect him to bounce back. But, yeah, it's just one of those down weeks for him.
I agree. It's just a down week bummer. I think the Ravens did. It was, all right, same thing pretty much. We're taking this guy out, beat us with Amon St. Brown or Kephis, whatever that guy is. Cephas, whatever his name is. So, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about T.J. Hawkinson. It's a down week for him. Expect him to continue to get those red zone touches, a lot of targets, a lot of receptions. But does this maybe kind of put a little bit of caution because of the fact that people might try to take him away?
Might not have or they're able to figure out how to beat I don't know, I think T.J. Hawkins is very good, and he's going to be able to get the ball. I think in practice now they're going to maybe try to find different plays to get him the ball in different ways. So
line him up, move him around.
If Dan Campbell's smart and the Lions are smart, I think they change it up, just try to do whatever they can to make sure he gets the ball. He's their best player by far.
Yeah, so that's what it just to me. It's something I think it's going to be a matchup thing you got to watch each week. Solely because if it's a team that can guard the tight end really well, they can take him away because there's no Galladay or Marvin Jones to throw the ball to this year.
And also, with the Ravens, they were kind of exposed week 1 against Waller, so they've probably been practicing that. Yeah,
they were going to say this tight end's not beating us. Yeah. It's going to be one of these young guys who, and it turned out, So Hawkinson was our fourth. He only with 3 points this week, very disappointing. And then the last guy, saved him for last on purpose. Matt Nagy, you're a freaking idiot. Hate you. Quit your job. You're dumb. Can't stand watching his offense. It's not Justin Fields. It's the receiver one for them.
The whole thing with the Bears, I saw today that all 3 quarterbacks could be starting next week.
It's not the quarterbacks. It's Matt Nagy. This is what it comes down to every week. It's Matt Nagy calling the plays.
I feel like once you start Justin Fields, you can't do this. You can't go back and forth.
You can't do
it.
Fields got sacked 9 times. That has nothing to do with Justin Fields. That has to do with play calling. That has to do with your terrible offensive line. Yeah. It has to do with everything. Like when you give up 9 sacks, it's not all on a rookie quarterback. Hey, maybe let's not run the longest pass plays ever invented, Matt Nagy. Let's freaking throw a screen every once in a while. Let's throw a quick out. Let's get the ball out of his hands. To me, it's just they're wasting Allen Robinson's potential, which is who our last bust of the week is.
And it's solely not because of Allen Robinson. No. It's solely based on that.
It's Matt Nagy. Like any other coach, any other team gets this guy the ball. He's franchise tag this year. They're wasting his talent. He's frustrated. The whole team's frustrated. He had 2 catches on 6 targets, 27 yards, but it's impossible to do anything when your quarterback's getting sacked 9 times with probably 18, 20 pressures. So, I don't know. They just looked terrible. Allen Robinson, he's a guy you got probably in the third, maybe late fourth or early fourth. He's a guy you expect to put up large numbers like he was last year, and he's just not producing because of the fact of who's play calling him.
Yeah, it's
and
tough to watch.
He's an official. You're going to have to start worrying about what he's going to look like the rest of the year.
And it's not because of him. It's just because of the offenses he's in, and you just can't play a guy when he's in a terrible offensive calling scheme.
You can't beat a bad coach.
Yep.
Your players can't do anything when you're on a bad team with a bad coach. Like, you look at the Jaguars with Marvin Jones, or you look at another bad team with, like, you look at who they throw, like the Dolphins this past week. They threw to Waddle 12 times. 15 times, I think he had 12 catches. You get the ball to your best player. That's the only, no matter how you do it, you try to get him the ball. That's what you do. But Matt Nagy's dumb, the worst coach I've ever seen. Needs to be fired tomorrow.
Yep. He needs to be.
So it's just, they gave him another year because they went and got hurt. Fields, I think he's rotating quarterbacks, so he can't say, well, it's not my fault still, it's Fields' fault or something. So Allen Robinson, it's disappointing week. I think he's official. You officially got to be worried about him and what he's going to do the rest of the year. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to me to see how it's going to play out and if they do this 3-quarterback thing. So it's going to be Dalton, Fields, and Foles?
Yeah, Foles is actually in the conversation.
Jesus. This is just, it's just a poor, not good for Robinson. He needs to get out.
The longer he stays there, the lower the opportunity that not Nick Fields, doesn't matter, but Justin Fields could be.
No, all talent opportunity with just Fields going to be gone just like that.
Yep,
so
all the confidence, everything else.
Yeah. So, and you saw it with Mitch, I think a lot. Like, Mitch isn't a great quarterback, but I don't think he's incompetent at being a solid quarterback. Like, we saw when you took him to the divisional game, should have won, double doink, all that stuff. Mitch can do that. I mean, shoot, they went, 8-8 last year? 7-9?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. And Mitch wasn't terrible. So, to me, it's just...
They made the playoffs, so...
To me, it's just terrible to watch them play football and Matt Nagy run that show.
They have a good running back.
Good. Yeah, you got Montgomery and then Robinson. They're just... Robinson should be a top 10 receiver in the league, I think, in my opinion. And you just have no value with him with what they're doing. So that's going to round out our Sunday bus. So we'll just recap them real fast. Our Sunday booms were Mike Williams, James Robinson, Tyler Conklin, Kareem Hunt, and Najee Harris. The busts that we had for this past week in week 3, now there could be more, especially after tonight's game, but before the Monday night game, we got Damian Harris, Tyreek Hill, Allen Robinson, DeAndre Hopkins, and TJ Hawkinson. And then let's go ahead and move in. So we each came up with our own list, top 3 waiver wire pickups this week.
And I believe we'll have one.
Number 1, that's an obvious pickup. He's 41% rostered, 11 carries, 52 yards in week, with 3 catches on 5 targets, 27 yards. That's Chuba Hubbard replacing the hurt Christian McCaffrey. This one it's like the Elijah Mitchell thing all over again. You're going to go get him. You need him. If you rostered him and sat on him, congratulations, you got him. Use him as trade bait maybe. But yeah, so he's the number 1 waiver wire pickup for both of us this week because of the circumstance that's taking place.
So, since McCaffrey's not on the IR, how much in those fab, like how much do you think you're spending?
That's what fab's very confused. It depends how bad you need him.
Because I'm looking at the next 5 games for the Panthers. It goes Dallas, Eagles, Vikings, Giants, Falcons.
So out of 5, you got 3 really bad run defenses.
Yep.
Eagles they're pretty solid. Giants you can hit or miss. I think they're not terrible though. So really, you got solid performances.
He catches the ball out of the backfield too. So
honestly, if you have McCaffrey, I think you got to spend a lot to get him because
I would.
You don't know how long this hamstring injury is going to be, and that's a big thing that's going to hurt him. Is it could be they might not put him on the IR this week, but like you said. They come the next week and he tries something in practice or he does play and it's like, well, shoot, there it goes again. It's just, to me, I think you got to go get him if you need him.
McCaffrey, you need to spend, I think, 60 to 75% of your fab.
No, probably. You probably need to spend a lot more than you would want to, just to make sure you secure a guy because there could be guys like, who don't need him that are going to go pick him up and then use him as a trade option later or something. And you don't want to regret, especially because I'll tell you what, Panthers look really good. So I would take anybody on that team right now. Well, besides Robbie Anderson, I'd take pretty much anybody else on that football team.
Yep.
It's just
DJ Moore is now taking targets from Anderson and just he looks awesome.
DJ Moore, 4th, 5th round guy you got, he's very good at what he's doing.
The value of Terrence Marshall now is
going to go up.
Getting, Robbie Anderson.
And that's what Robbie Anderson, his value might go up now too because McCaffrey. But I mean, you look at Hubbard had 5 targets. And I think that can only go because he's not terrible at catching the ball in the backfield. So I'm interested to see what that's going to look like. But that's definitely both our number 1 pickups. My number 2 pickup, we've already talked about them a little bit. Kirk Cousins, actually, to me, is I think if you are a guy that maybe you play quarterback matchups or you're like riding somebody who you're kind of hoping will turn around or struggling, like Tannehill's had some good games, some bad games. I would go get Kirk Cousins to maybe play matchups with. He's 63% rostered, so he's still available in a lot of leagues. Mm-hmm. But he's a top 5 quarterback right now. He's had 3 games over 300 yards now, 2 games with 3 touchdowns. He's had no interceptions yet. This past week he threw for 30. He was 30 for 38 with 323 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. I think this is a team that's much more balanced, and I think he only benefits when Cook comes back. That just because it gives him. People got to pack the box to stop that run against him, which gives him more options with a very good veteran wide receiver in Thielen. Conklin looked really good plus side. Osborne has played really well, and then Justin Jefferson coming around too. So to me, I really like Kirk Cousins here as my number 2 waiver wire pickup if he's available and you need a quarterback.
Yeah, I always like streaming quarterbacks if you don't get those top guys, and I think Kirk Cousins is. I don't know. He's top 10 in fantasy football right now, maybe even top 7.
Yeah, he's something like that. Yeah.
So I like that pickup. If you need a quarterback, if you don't have one of those top guys, get him on your team. Look for some matchups. Yeah. He could even be to the point where you have to start him every week. That offense looks good. That defense looks bad. So they're going to have to throw and stay in games. And
they're using, like you said, but the balanced attack I think is what is the difference maker for him this year than what it was last year. So that's my number 2. What do you have for your number 2 guy?
So my number 2, I'm going what we were talking about earlier, Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah.
Only 36% rostered. He's on the field, like we said, the first week's 93%, 77%, then 8%, getting at least 6 targets a game, had 2 touchdowns last game, so they're looking at him in the red zone, had almost 20 yards per catch, so they're looking at him deep. It almost kind of had last week what you expect Diggs to have.
Yeah.
But he had a really good last week. And I think of the snap percentage and how much he's on the field, all the target shares he's getting is someone you need to have. Put him in that flex position. If you have 2 flexes, perfect, because then I think he'd be a great second flex. And anytime, and if you have Diggs that could ever get hurt, putting Emmanuel Sanders in is just like the number 1 thing to do because he would get his targets plus Diggs' targets.
And that's what I agree. Emmanuel Sanders, I think, is one of the he's one that you should go get, especially because of how much he's on the field and how much the Bills' offense can score. Mm-hmm. He's going to spread the ball around. He's going to go to Diggs. Diggs is clear to cut, number 1, their best option. But if teams key on taking him out of the game, Sanders and Beasley are very capable of being those number 2 guys. And I think it's turned out that Sanders is that number 2 guy, and he can do both. He can go long, he can stay short, he can do either one. Yep. I think he had a 28-yard reception and a 3-yard reception for a touchdown this past week. So, to me, I just feel like he's very capable of being very good, and I guess I would roster him, especially like you said, 2 flex leagues, or if you want to, you need him for play a weekly matchup based up with him too, I would do that too.
I think he's a lot better than probably what a lot of guys you have on the bench just sitting there for wide receivers.
Yeah.
He'd be a great pickup, and maybe someone that people are looking for something else like that Chuba Hubbard. Everyone's going to be focused on him.
You can go get
Emmanuel Sanders for cheap if
you can go. Yep, exactly. So he's a good number 2 option. My number 3 option here is going to be Giovanni Bernard. Okay. Actually, I know he did get dinged up a little bit here with
He took he got flipped into the end zone. He had
like
his touchdown.
he flexed his leg out. So that hurts, but he had 10 targets, 9 catches, 51 yards, and a touchdown. He's only rostered 18% in leagues on Sleeper right now. We talked about it. Tom Brady loves receiving backs. Mm-hmm. And I think if you have room to go get a guy like this and sit and really, I guess look at what the injuries looking like right now. But I'll go get a guy like that because if I can get a backup running back, a receiving running back, especially like Leonard Fournette, who I know will go catch. This guy will catch balls and be valuable in an offense like the Buccaneers. I'd go get him. So he's going to be my third kind of guy to look at, and he might not be too expensive because a lot of people, like I said, won't be looking at him. So that's going to round out my third one.
I really like that pick because I think you were shown when you're in a game with the Bucs and they might be down.
Yeah.
They take Fournette out. Ronald Jones he's disappeared. And Gio's their guy, especially when they're down like that. He's on the field a lot more, getting a lot of targets from Tom Brady. So I love that. And then you play that matchup where you think the Bucs might be down in the game, and we'll have to throw the ball a lot more. That's the way to go.
Yep. So do you have as your third option here?
My number 3 is, I think I've already talked about before, but I'm actually going with Tim Patrick. Again, he's 37% rostered.
That's in the Hamler. That's the one I forgot. He is towards ACL.
And he's out. So now it's pretty much Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Noah Fant. Or then until Jerry Jeudy comes back. And if you're really thinking that Jerry Jeudy's going to come back 100% healthy after week 4, that's insane because a high ankle sprain can linger for a very long time. He might be able to play on it, but he's not going to get that push off like he was before he hurt it. So I think Tim Patrick could be someone you can get now and hold for a very long time. He had a touchdown in the first 2 games. Didn't have a touchdown this last game, but had 98 yards on 5 targets with 5 catches, almost 20 yards a catch. Is on the field around, looks like about averages 75% of the time. And the Broncos, they're starting to get out of the easy schedule now and start playing a little bit harder teams. So that means they might not be able to run the ball as much as they have been in the past. So they're going to have to throw the ball a lot more. Teddy's going to have to get in that pocket and try to use Sutton, Tim Patrick, Noah Fant a little bit more. And I think Tim Patrick's going to really benefit from that. So 37% rostered, I think you should go get him right now.
I agree with that, especially like you said, especially with the big news of Hamler coming out with an injury. That gives him Sutton, Fant, and then Patrick now. And Patrick was a touchdown. He had how many touchdowns did he have? I think he has 2, right?
He has one in week 1, one in week 2. He didn't have one this week. I think he was close, but he had almost 100 yards. He had 98.
So to me, I think looking at him there is going to be, it's a very good value pick, especially with, like, if you had Jeudy or something, picking him up and holding him. I think you'll see Teddy Bridgewater is very good. So I like him. Patrick being a pickup, especially with Hamler, news of him coming out being injured. So waiver pickups, we'll just run through real fast. We both have Hubbard at 1. I have Kirk Cousins at 2. And then kind of like my third sleeper one is Giovanni Bernard at 3.
And then I got, we have Chua, and then Emmanuel Sanders, and then Tim Patrick.
Okay, so that will round out our booms, busts, and
waiver wire pickups
for the week. Okay, so let's go ahead and move to Thursday Night Football. We got the Jaguars versus at the Bengals. I'm going to go ahead and give 2 starts and then 1 sit for the week. My start it's going to be Marvin Jones again, best receiver on that team. I just think he's going to get the ball a lot this week. To me, the Bengals our defensive line is very good at stopping the run. We've seen teams struggle against them running the football. So I like Marvin Jones to get some good targets this week. And then my next start would be Joe Mixon against the Jaguars team that's kind of banged up. We saw James Robinson have a very big game. And I think Joe Mixon's going to get a lot of touches, so I expect him to kind of roll and have a very good game this week. So those were my 2 starts for Thursday night. My sit for Thursday is actually going to be a guy we just talked about. Is just James Robinson because of the fact of how good the Bengals defensive line has been at stopping the run. They gave up like 60 yards to, we looked up last week, Cook, and then we had Najee, he only had 40, and then who else they played? They played someone else, and then they only gave up 60 as well. So, Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, those three are just they're very good running backs, and they stopped them. So I think James Robinson's gonna have a tough night running the football.
Yeah, so I'll go with I have a sleeper start. I actually have two starts, which one is the same as yours, Marvin Jones, and my sit's the same as well. I think that Bengals defense is very good, and so I believe James Robinson's not going to have the same week as he did this week. My start is going to be Jamar Chase. I think he's scoring touchdowns. Whatever he said, he can't see the ball, can't catch. That's been long gone. Like, he can catch, he's scoring touchdowns, especially with T. Higgins out. I don't know if T. Higgins is going to be out again this week, but with a short week, and if he's not fully healthy, he might have to.
They might not play, yeah.
But and then also my sleeper is Joe Burrow for quarterback. If you're needing a quarterback to go this week, and you maybe can't get Kirk Cousins, and if maybe the quarterback is a little bit not deep in your league, Joe Burrow I think would be a great pickup to start against that very bad Jaguars defense. That also just traded one of their better cornerbacks away to the Panthers, so that opens that up, and I think you'll get a good at least 20 points out of Joe Burrow this week.
And that's why I like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. They've looked really good. Jamar Chase had 2 touchdowns. He has 4 touchdowns through 3 weeks, I believe. So he's definitely someone Joe Burrow is going to throw to, and he trusts.
If T. Higgins is out again, I'd love
and that's why I think, like you said, if he's out again, he's definitely one. Boyd's someone you're going to look at the start as well.
Yep.
But I like Jamar Chase. We were both pretty high on him at the beginning of the year. Same with Elijah Moore. But I think Jamar Chase has come out. They're on a better offense, and he's more of a deep ball threat. And I think he's benefiting more with having a solid team.
From what I wanted to say is on DraftKings, he's the second favorite to win Rookie of the Year, Jamar Chase, and the rest around him are quarterbacks who, not one of them have looked good. And Jamar Chase is 5-1 right now on DraftKings to win Rookie of the Year, and he's like one of the few rookies that's looking good. So, might be something to throw a little bit of money on him. I know you also have Najee Harris over there. I don't even know what Najee is, but I think this might be a year where the Rookie of the Year is not a quarterback.
Not one.
Yeah, and you might be able to look at that Jamar Chase, Najee Harris, just because of the production they're getting with their teams.
Yeah, so that'll be pretty good. I like Jamar Chase a lot this year. He's shown that he's very good and very solid. So someone to keep an eye out for. So that'll wrap up our thing. Let's go ahead and go into some of the gambling. Let's talk about the Bengals and Jags game here. Bengals are favored 7 points. Over-under set 46. Jags are plus 260 money line. I'm not crazy about anything right now. I do like the Bengals at -7, though, so I'm going to ride that for right now. Be sure to check out our Twitter because we'll definitely tweet out some of our picks because I think I'll definitely look at more as it comes out, but there's just not a lot coming out right now, so I like that. What else do you got?
So I have Bengals -6 or -7. I really think the Bengals might be a little bit better than everyone thought they were. I think they're really proven that they are. So I like -7, but I also like the under because of that defense. I think if they can stop the run and then if Trevor Lawrence kind of plays like how he's been playing, they're not scoring 20 points. No. They're not scoring 2 touchdowns. So I think the under hits at 46.
Okay, so right now I'm just Bengals right now. So I do like the under, but I also feel like it could be a weird game where they just both score and do something. Yeah. So it's here, there, the under. The games haven't been really good right now, so I don't really know. I don't know. The overs haven't been too hot, so it could be some
primetime game except for last Thursday.
Yeah, so I don't know. The under here, it's a tough one, especially with the Jags playing. But I'm gonna stay away from it for right now, but I can always come back to it.
I don't even think they have player props right out.
They don't. That's why I'm just waiting. Like they don't have really anything out right now.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. They usually have. I think it's just because it's the Jags and them.
I think probably injuries too.
So So what I'm gonna do, we'll move to our college football picks here. First pick here that we both have, I know because we talked about it, is Iowa at Maryland, -4. hammering them hard there.
Yep. We've been riding the Iowa train in these bigger matchups. Maryland's 4-0 as well, but they haven't played anyone. Week 1, they beat West Virginia. But other than that, they haven't played anyone.
Yeah.
So I know it's at Maryland, but I do like Iowa minus.
I like Ireland here. Or Ireland. Iowa here, I feel like they're going to come out and play very well. Like you said, it's Maryland. Maryland can be very good. I just think Iowa's defense will be too much for them. Tua's brother's starting quarterback, yeah. So we both like Iowa. I actually picked my second one. I'm going to riot here. It's going to be Alabama minus 14 against Ole Miss.
I had that. And because I think they're going to bounce back. I know 2 weeks ago.
They should have beat whoever by more. Florida.
They let back in the game. But I'm going with Cincy -1 at Notre Dame. This is the game Cincinnati needs to win and make them conversation in the playoff.
Notre Dame coming off a big win against.
And after Notre Dame, they can win the rest. This is the biggest one. I think Cincinnati comes out and beats them.
That's right. I do like Cincinnati. Notre Dame's coming off a big win, so it's going to be interesting to see how they're feeling and what they're going to come out to be. Is the game at Notre Dame? I think it is, right?
It is.
So that's going to be a tough environment for you to go into, but I do like Cincinnati. I love their quarterback. I think he's a more underrated QB prospect this year. So I like that pick. I would love for Cincinnati to win. Hate the Irish. So I might look into that one more, see how that line, because I think I looked today and the line was at 2.5 earlier.
It's at 1 now.
So it's people are riding Notre Dame hard. So I might go and throw some money at Cincy right now. So, but yeah, so that's going to do it here on our 11th episode of Fantasy Football Futures. We went over some booms, some busts, some key waiver pickups for this week, as well as give you a little Thursday night preview, must starts and sits and everything. So be sure, if you guys are listening on the podcast and you want to watch us, go check us out at Fantasy Football Futures on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and we'll give you little notifications whenever we post a new video. And then go ahead and check us out, Fantasy Football Futures, on all social media. And if you want to check our bets and follow us on that, we put them out on the Action app. So go there and you can just look us up, Fantasy Football Futures, as well, and on TikTok. So we appreciate all the support.
Yep.
We'll keep churning these out, and hopefully we can, I don't know, the moon. I don't know. Boop, boop. Thanks.